So filtering. Filtering lets you limit what you see. I think you guys are all familiar with the concept. It is actually being used in the to-do list. And there is more than one way to set up filtering. So this is one way to do it, not the only way. But I did want to go through here and explain what it's doing, because it's not all that straightforward. So this is our to-do list that you can download. It's at the top of this project. And what they have done is created a filter class. So let's take a minute and look at the models in here. So this is a to-do list, right? So we have a to-do model. And it's got most of what you would expect, right? There's an ID, you enter a description of what you need to do, there's a due date, then you're going to assign a category and select a status, like it's open or it's been completed, okay? And you'll notice that category and status are foreign keys. So they are connecting to our category model, which has just got an ID and a name, and our status model, which also has an ID and a name. Okay. And then the only other thing or class in here is filters. And so this little filter class, what it starts out doing is it creates a filter string and it gives it kind of a starting state of all. Then we're splitting this string based on the dash, and we're throwing it into a string array called filters. So basically, the array is going to have 3 things in it, and each one of them is going to say all. So we subscript in to position 0, which has all, right? And we throw that into category ID. And then we subscript in into position 1, which has all, and we throw that into do. Subscript into position 2, which has all, and we put that into status ID. Then we create some properties, and you will notice these properties are all get properties. They don't set, they just get. So therefore, retrieval purposes, read-onlys. So we have a filter string, we have category ID, do, and status ID. Then we have some additional properties, has category, has do, and has status. And those are only going to be set to true when they don't equal all. Okay, so it's looking at the category ID, it's looking at do, and it's looking at status ID. These 3 up here. Well, initially they are set to all. Okay, so it's only going to turn these on if they're not equal to all. So that means somebody had to change them. Then we have do filter values. These are different values that are acceptable for the do filter. And you'll notice that we have future with upper and lower case, past, and today. So then we're checking 3 properties, past, future, and today. And we're basically seeing if it's equal to past, future, or today. And if it is equal to any of those, then these are turned on. So those are our models. The app only has one controller. And the index method is actually doing an awful lot in here. The index method, let me widen this just a little bit. It's basically loading up, it's grabbing the ID, and it is loading the categories and the statuses from the database into view bags. And then it's grabbing the do filter values, okay, from our filters class. Let's look at that. Do filter values. Remember, that was set up as a dictionary. So these are the values that it's grabbing. Then we've got a query object. And here it is including our foreign keys, category and status. And then it is checking. Is filters.has category, is that turned on? If it is, it's basically adjusting our query, right? It's going to make sure that the category that got selected is what we're going to be looking at. And then it looks at filters.has status. So status could be open or closed, whatever status happens to be. If that is turned on, then it adjusts our results. Then it looks at filters.hasDue, grabs today's date, and then it checks to see if filters is past is on, if filters is future is on, or if filters is today is on. And then it adjusts the list accordingly. Okay, then it takes our query and it does a little sort by the due date, throws it into a list, stores it in tasks, passes that on to our index view. So let's look at the index view. So the index view is pulling in that list, and then you'll notice it's all very strongly typed. So here we have different selects. And what I wanted to point out is that look at the action here. So if they fill in this portion and they submit it, it's going to filter. So this is how the filters are getting set. Okay, so here's the category filters, here's the do filters, here's the status filters. If they select something here and submit this, this is how the filters get set. Okay, so if we go back here and we find our filter action method, okay, this is how those filters are getting set. And then it's redirecting back to the index. And remember, this is just storing the status of the filters. So if they choose to set something here and submit, it runs back through the index and it kind of redisplays this view again. But when it redisplays the view, it's going to do it with a limited number of categories or limited dates. And I think I'm going to run this so you guys can see it because otherwise it's kind of hard to visualize how this is working. All right. So let me add, let's see. Finish videos. Category, this is work. Due date, 10/25. Still open. All right, so if I went down here and selected open and hit filter, what would happen is it's going to go through this group, right? And so this is status. So if we come through here and we take a look, there's our due filters, our categories, here's our status. Okay, so this is going to go back over to our home controller. It is going to update what we have over here in our class. Okay, so if we look at our status, has status, it no longer is equal to all, right? If I submit this, it's going to be equal to open. Okay, so it's going to know that the status has been set. Okay, so it's going to be turned on. So when we whip through here again, when it gets to has status, that's going to be true. So it is going to limit what I see. So I'm going to do a filter, and you're not going to probably notice a difference right now because I haven't completed anything. But let's say I completed this, which I did. Okay, so now, because I still have the status on open, I'm just seeing one thing. If I go back to all, now I see both. If I go to completed, I only see what I completed. Okay, and due is going to look kind of similar, although I had everything due today. So let me add something that is future due. Let's see. I'll say correct CIT 210. I have a very exciting life. More work. Okay. That's going to be, I'll put 10:30. I'll have it corrected by then, before then, but open. All right. And oh, here's a fun thing. Let me add something else. My granddaughter a snowsuit. All right. Category shopping. I think I'm going to do that tomorrow. Open. Okay. So let me go to do, and we'll go to future. And it picked out my 2 activities that are greater than today. Okay, so if we come through here, I mean, you already know where it kind of gets set is down here in filter, right? And it's running through this class to determine, if it's equal to all or not. And that's how it decides if it's going to be turned on or off. And then it's coming through here and it's actually checking which one of these is on. And I have future on. So this is going to flag on. So this is what it's going to be retrieving, anything that's greater than today's date. Okay, so these categories are filtering our lists, basically. And I think the rest of this is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, if you look at the ad, it's basically grabbing the categories and the statuses, throwing them into view bags and routing you over to the ad, which is a form. And then it's using the view bags to give you the drop-down lists. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Then if you go through the post, it's checking the model state to see if it's valid. And if it is, it basically saves your changes and then it's going to redirect you back to the index so you can see it. Otherwise, if there's a problem, again, it's grabbing categories and statuses. It's taking the task, which is your class object, and it's routing all of that back to the add so that you can fix whatever the problem is. The rest of this, I think you guys can follow, but this is how you would set up a filter.